Hello world, this is Lisa Friedrichsen, your friend and computer science professor with the summary on Coding Bootcamp 101. What you need to know before spending 10 grand or more on a coding bootcamp. And the goal of this entire series has been to provide a logical, affordable, and effective way to attack the 5 areas of a full stack, get you up to speed, and get you making money as quickly as possible. The full stack is really 5 big areas and 2 major categories: the front-end technologies of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and the back-end languages, a server-side language and a database. Put them all together, you got a full-stack programmer, and that's often what the coding boot camps are selling. If you've been watching this series, you know that I consider that there are 5 key foundational knowledge areas that you need to know to become a full-stack developer. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are all on the front end, and JavaScript is a full-blown programming language. And given it's a front-end language and it's easy to compile because it goes right in the browser reads it and runs it, I think that's your ideal first programming language. Then on the backside, to build the full web app, you're going to want to save and store and select data. That means you need to know relational database modeling, how to set up tables, and build one-to-many relationships. I would recommend that you use MySQL to do that, given it's such a popular open source relational database management software program. And you'll also need to learn SQL, structured query language, because it runs against all relational database models to select, append, update, and delete data from that database. Finally, you're going to need a server-side language to put it all together, to read and write data from the relational database and create HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and content that is then served down to the user. And I recommend PHP because it's the most popular server-side language. And here are some of the common back-end development languages that are being taught both at colleges as well as at coding boot camps. I list PHP first because of its popularity in web apps, but Microsoft also has a couple combinations, Visual Basic or C#, with the ASP.NET framework and their own relational database management software, SQL Server. When you go to your coding boot camp or your college, you may be taught Ruby or Python or Java or something else as a first language. That doesn't mean that that's wrong. All knowledge is helpful. No matter what your first programming language is, it's going to be interesting and it's going to tickle your brain because there are a lot of concepts, conceptual knowledge that you need to learn as a programmer. Again, I recommend JavaScript as your first language. It's going to be the easiest to learn, but if you're thrown into a back-end language as a first language, it may be one of these, and that's great. Learn the basics of programming and also know where that language best fits in the world around you. Notice that I haven't listed a few popular college programming languages such as C++ or Haskell or Lisp, and that is because those languages are not popular for web apps. They're popular for things that don't involve people. If you're going to present information to a person, if you want a person to read the information that your program is working on, you're probably going to give that information to a person as a web page. And we know by watching the series that the web page is a combination of content, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But if your program is polling cash registers in Walmart and sending that data to the mainframe where there is no human web page involved, then you're probably going to want a higher level type language such as C++ to make that transition. So there's a lot of machine-to-machine communication languages that are not listed on this page because they're not commonly used for web apps. It doesn't mean they can't be used for web apps. It just means we've got a lot of languages and each one of them has a strike zone, has a best purpose in life. And there's a tremendous amount of potential right now and going into the future for people that understand that. There is no end of free and inexpensive resources to find and learn about these technologies. You might start with w3schools.com because it has all the basics and it has a great ability to break everything down into tiny bite-sized pieces. For JavaScript, I love freecodecamp.com. I would also start from the beginning using wikispaces.com or some other note-taking tool as you undertake your process of learning how to build a web app. YouTube is a fantastic educational tool. You just need to find the best channels and the authors. I've noticed that YouTube runs the range of awful, wrong, and obsolete to great. So you do need to find those best channels and authors, particularly in JavaScript. I've noticed that there are some really old and incorrect things. I try to subscribe to only the best channels. I'd also recommend your local community college. For the money, they are probably going to be the lowest cost way to get this education. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, MySQL and SQL, and PHP. Take those 5 classes. You might take other classes that round out your knowledge, but these would be the 5 key areas you really need to understand. Also know that there are local users groups in every community. They're often free or very low cost, and they're a great networking opportunity. Just keep learning, just keep asking questions. Local meetups are the same way. And do find out what back-end technologies, what back-end languages are popular in your area. You don't want to be going to a Ruby on Rails bootcamp if that's not a popular language and framework in your area. Sequencing the stack. Go through HTML, CSS, and JavaScript first. Then get as much as you can on relational database modeling, one-to-many relationships in SQL as possible. Use MySQL if you can, and then get into a server-side language. Try not to write your code in an IDE or a framework off the bat. Learn that language as a pure language, and then as you understand what the language is doing, then you can add libraries or local resources. And then finally, once you've got a web app, you deploy it to a web host. And there are many free. HostGator.com would be an example. Use FileZilla to transfer your files. You'll manage your files with cPanel. You'll learn about tools such as PHP MyAdmin to administer your database. You'll learn about tools such as Git and GitHub, cloud storage and version control. All of these topics are valuable. All that icing on the cake only makes sense when you know these 5 basic areas. Thank you for watching this YouTube series. I welcome your feedback and comments, and I wish you all the best success in your future. Thank you.